Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 3rd February 2024. And here we are for this recap video in our continuing Bhagavad Gita study journey for Chapter 8 to present a summary of the content covered today. Along with me, here is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
Bringing up the screen, you're going to see that we covered Chapter 8 verses 11 and 12 after the usual recap quiz. The recap quiz covering Chapter 8 verses 9 and 10 last time that we had covered. So quiz questions to help you review that material. Highly encouraged to go through it. You'll see more than normal. There are a lot of different Sanskrit terms that were, introduced again for everyone's benefit. So definitely take some time, please, and go through all of that. So after that, you'll see that we started off with Chapter 8, verse 11.
Yadaksharam vedavido vadanti vishanti yad yatayo vitaragaha yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe.
So Chapter 8, verse 11, the catchphrase here is finding the formless. Again, building off from Chapter 8, verses 9 and 10, where we saw a lot of the qualities, 8 to be specific, that Sri Krishna has described. We're trying to now hear a little bit from him about this path to attaining the formless aspect of God, Brahman, as we all know. So finding the formless, Chapter 8, verse 11, Sri Krishna has said that scholars of the Vedas have described God as imperishable, which in fact we showed you is related to the title of this chapter. So if you look at Chapter 8, it is known as Akshar Brahma Yog, the yoga of eternal God, eternal or imperishable. So Akshar, today we see it for the first time here, Chapter 8, verse 11, as Aksharam. So Swamiji tells us in the commentary that there are many names that God has been described by, and some of them you recognize: Sat, Pran, Dev, Brahman, etc. We talked about Avyakrit in class, which is an elementary substance from which all creation happens. So it's another parallel for Brahman. And then in this specific verse, we learn Akshar. Again, Akshar is imperishable. And there's a shloka from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad talking about how this indestructible, eternal, imperishable aspect of God has this mighty control, even over lofty things like the sun and the moon. So Sri Krishna, as Swamiji says, briefly describes this path because it is difficult. It requires a lot of severe austerities. It requires practicing brahmacharya, celibacy. We talked about that in detail in class. Swamiji also reminds us in the commentary that this was covered at length in Chapter 6, verse 14. If someone is able to pursue that path with that rigidity and with the continence that's required, self-restraint and self-control over all the different senses and activities, then indeed one has one's pran and vital force and internal seminal energy all preserved and converted into spiritual energy through sadhana, which then helps one perform a lot of different powerful activities. We gave the example of Hanumanji, of course, as well as a couple of other sages that many of you might be familiar with, who were able to have that spiritual energy really be used in a powerful way. Regardless, Sri Krishna says, Swamiji has also described in the commentary, that this is a path Sri Krishna describes very briefly, given that it is not suitable for everyone. Next, we're going to see Chapter 8, verse 12.
Sarvadvarani sanyamya manohridi niruddhya cha murdhyanaidyatmana pranam asthito yoga dharana.
Chapter 8, verse 12. The catchphrase here is closed door, mind-heart meeting. Closed door meeting, a lot of you are familiar with that. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, often maybe for something that is secretive, which indeed we reminded you as early as perhaps Chapter 4, Sri Krishna had revealed to Arjun that this wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita is rahasya, It's a secret, and only to those who are eligible for it, like all of us, fortunately blessed to be on this platform. And we're now seeing that it is a meeting of the mind and the heart. So, chapter 8, verse 12, Sri Krishna says we need to restrain all the gates of the body and then fix the mind somewhere. That somewhere is known as the heart region, which we saw in class and many of you are familiar with, is because the Lord is seated and enthroned there. The gates of the body we talked about, the various senses, the sense-seeking tools as well. We have also the objects of the senses that they seek. So controlling the senses and in fact channeling whatever the eyes see or the ears hear and so on, putting that towards devotion, that is what is going to help us get to this path of attaining the Supreme Lord. Again, in these specific verses, the Brahman aspect. So it's about locking the mind, as Swamiji tells us in the commentary. We have to really fix the mind, lock those gates or doors, focus on the heart region because God is seated there. And then having this continuation of what we saw last week, the life breath being, channeled to the head, the various channels and nadis being established in steadfast yogic concentration, yoga dharana, that will help us eventually unite our consciousness with God. To connect it to the flyer that you all had seen, of course, simple image with the question being, mind you, but where exactly should your mind be fixed? Well, perhaps in class, perhaps in spirituality, but also through this verse, chapter 8, verse 12, we see that it should be fixed in the heart region. I'll pass it over to Mummy to enlighten us with some important Sanskrit terminology and any other takeaways.
Thank you, Gagan. And you have explained it very well, not much for me to say now. The first verse, 11, the most important word here is Aksharam. Akshara means the imperishable, the eternal God. And verse number 12, the word is Sarvadvarani. Sarvadvarani means the all 9 gates of our body. There are lots of Sanskrit words in both the verses. Yoga Mishra Bhakti, Sangrahen, Brahmacharya. Okay, so Krishna is talking about how by controlling the senses we can attain God realization. It's a very tough path, no doubt about it. And then my suggestion or my experience is that as Krishna is teaching us Karma Yoga, we should continue on Karma Yoga. Those austerities are only for the great ascetics. We normal human beings, we can make our own package at home whereby we do little bit of Yoga Mishra Bhakti. We can do little yoga in the morning, some walk, some pranayam, then some japa, some bhakti, some scripture reading, some kirtan, and slowly, slowly move on this path. From verse 12, what I am seeing that Krishna is suggesting that we tell our mind, control our senses and tell our mind that it has to do devotion. And once it knows it is under control, then we make it seated in same place as God is enthroned in our heart region. Similarly to a tortoise, whereby tortoise is in a steadfast position by putting all its organs under the shell. So we have to learn to control all our senses. What is this? Sarvadvarani sanyamya, controlling the passages. Okay. So I'm reminded of Gandhiji's 3 monkeys who had closed their ears, eyes, and mouth. That means don't look, don't see anything bad, don't hear anything bad, don't speak bad. So basically, controlling the senses. And then when our mind is also under control, it is one of the senses, then you lock it in the heart region, right where Krishna is situated. And then try to unite the consciousness with God, so that we have to learn to purify our mind through all the package that we have made for ourselves, the ways to remember God, close our senses from this material world, try to lock our mind in the heart region, and with various methods, we try to attach our mind to God, control all the desires, and senses should be restrained. And that restraint should be complete and perfect, like that tortoise. So we cannot leave our gateways open. Otherwise, these winds of attraction, they will close the frame of all the knowledge. So with that, over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you, Mommy. I like a lot of the phrases and words we should all take note of. I'm going to do that as well. So the gateways, the winds of attraction, I think visually also the animals to keep in mind, right? The tortoise and the monkey or monkeys. And all of this, as you said, summarized into a package for each of us. So lots to take away for there. Next
Yeah,
week
and the
ahead.
main thing is we have to understand that Brahman alone is eternal. Hmm? Everything else is transitory and it is always changing. It is only Aksharam, which is imperishable. So we have to learn this reality and realize that only when we are free from attachment and desire, from lust and hatred, then only we can enter that Brahmi state. So our mind has to be, literally purified. That purity is very, very important. And Krishna has used this word pravakshay, which is a very emphatic term, whereby he is indicating the importance of Brahma Vidya. He's teaching his disciple, and through his disciple, he's teaching us the whole mankind. And with that, over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mommy. We look forward to seeing all of you next week, same time, same place. That is Saturday, 10th February 2024, 8 a.m. Central Time in the US, and 7:30 p.m. India time. Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.